Hello. Hello. Good evening, everybody. How is everybody doing? Welcome to today's English webinar. And the topic for today's webinar is Reading for Meaning, Strategies to Deepen Comprehension. I hope everybody is doing well. Um, Today's webinar is mostly about how do we inculcate the habit of reading in our students, but most importantly, what is the factor that really contributes to students, reading better? And, reading not for the sake of reading, going through a text, completing the chapter or completing a book, but actually, how are they engaging with that text? Are they understanding what is written? Are they understanding what is the context behind that, that paragraph? Um, are they actually using their prior knowledge to build new ideas based on that text? Right. So a lot of different layers to reading, and that is what we're going to explore today in our webinar. A few norms for today's 1 hour session is something that I'd like you to do is one, participate. Please feel free to use the chat box um, to give your opinions, ask questions, give answers. Just display your viewpoint. Feel free to say what you're thinking about, what we are talking about. Secondly, if you want to say something, if you have something to add, please use the hand raise icon that you must see in your devices to raise your hand so that I can come to you and ask you for your opinion. And thirdly, again, please participate. This is a very interactive session and I would like to keep it that way. So I really value your opinion, your questions, your answers, your comments. So I'm really looking forward to 1 hour of learning. And yeah, so let's begin. So basically, the underlining statement or the underlining theme of this today's session is how do we actually boost reading engagement, right? As teachers, we can give our students assignments to, read that book, read that chapter, read a paragraph, and come back tomorrow. Or, maybe there's a news article, or we often ask ourselves these questions that why aren't my students reading the newspapers, right? Where is the habit of reading? When is the habit of reading going to be inculcated in our students? How do we do that as teachers, right? And one of the questions and one of the answers that I get from my students and from other fellow teachers is there is a gap between how students are perceiving those texts. Maybe it's too difficult for them to understand, or maybe there is a lack of interest that the students are just not able to get interested in such a long paragraph. And I'm talking about all grades. I'm talking about primary grades that are just starting to learn sentences, how to frame sentences, and then reading might be a mammoth task for them. I'm also talking about your primary students, grades 5, 6, 4, 5, 6, where they are in the habit of reading sentences and reading paragraphs, but there are different challenges of new vocabulary that's kept on being that's being thrown on them. So that might be like there might be a fear of like learning new things, or maybe coming up with certain sentences that they might not be able to understand how to make sense of. And I'm also talking about the middle school, grade 6, 7, 8, where the rigor increases, and we might have students in those grades that are very good at reading, but also students who really struggle to read even basic simple sentences. So we are here to acknowledge the fact that despite we have teachers across various grades right now here. So even if you are a primary teacher, or an early elementary teacher or a middle school teacher, I believe that this session is going to help you in overcoming these challenges by learning a few strategies by which we can boost reading engagement. How can we make reading easy for my students so that it's a fun activity for them? And the next time that they are met with a paragraph or a chapter or a book, they will look forward to it rather than being afraid, right? So, without much ado, let's begin. The objectives of the webinar is to boost reading engagement and comprehension, right? Uh, Use prediction, annotation, visualization, and discussion as core strategies. So these are 4 strategies that I'm going to introduce to you today. It might be that you might be familiar with these strategies or not. If not, then great. If yes, then this will be like a revision task for you. Again, great. And develop interpretation and analytical thinking in students. So the concept is that our goal ultimately is not that the student should be able to read the whole book or the whole chapter in 1 hour. That's not the goal, right? We are not trying to make fast readers out of our students. What we are trying to do is build critical thinking through reading in our students, right? To build analytical thinking, to build reflection via reading in our students. So the ultimate goal is something else, right? Reading is just the medium through which we are trying to do that. Okay. So I have a question for you. Okay. And I want you to really think about it in one word, and I want you to answer it in the chat box. Okay. In one word, how do most of your students feel about assigned reading? So you have to answer only in one word. Okay. Let's say you give them a chapter today. Okay, read chapter number 14 and come back tomorrow. How do you think your students feel? How do they feel? Have they ever told you about it? Okay, Preeti says tasks. So that's the Jata says they enjoy it. That's great. Interested, uninteresting, boring. Okay, I'm waiting for more answers. Thank you everybody for answering in the chat box. In one word, tell me how your students feel about assigned reading, something that they are told that they should read. They are interested, they feel more nervous, boring, okay, forced, that's a good word, mixed feelings. Again, oh god, again the teacher has given a new task for reading, oh my god, boring. So the majority of what I'm hearing is it's not a great task. Yeah, it's load and force, it's not great. There are some students who might like it, but mostly there are students who are like, oh my god, what is this happening? Okay, I think I've gotten my answer. So again, like this is a big question to all the teachers out there. When your students read a text, right? When they're reading a text, are they decoding words or are they meeting the text? Now, I'm going to give you 10 to 15 seconds to think about the question that is on the screen, okay? So now that they're reading a text, now they're reading a chapter, or they're reading a book or a paragraph, are they decoding the words? Or are they needing the text beyond what is written? That's my question. 5 more seconds to think. Okay. Somebody says meeting the text. Somebody says just reading. Some are decoding. Many are text meeting the text. Okay. They're reading the text. Okay. I'm getting a lot of mixed answers here. Thank you everybody for answering the question. Okay. Decoding. And what I mean by decoding is, okay, what is okay? Decoding means, okay, this is a word. Okay. That's a word. Okay. That's what it means. Right. Okay. Okay. Somebody has raised their hand. Yes, Srividya, you want to answer this question? Okay, while Sri Vidya is unmuting herself, I'm just going to repeat repeat the question here. By decoding the text, I mean, okay, they're trying to understand what these words mean. Okay, frustrated. Okay, what does this word mean? And by meeting the text, what I mean is that Are they reflecting on what is written? Are they using their prior knowledge to build up new thinking, new thoughts, their own thoughts with respect to what they are reading, right? uh, okay, I'm going to move ahead. I have a quick activity for you. Let's find out. Let's really find out. Let's put ourselves in the students' shoes and let's find out. I have a quick activity for you, and the activity is called Be the Student, right? And the purpose of this activity is that teachers experience the problem before they learn the fix. Okay, so here we are going to actually do an activity. And what you have to do, listen to this very carefully. I'm going to present to you 100 to 150 word excerpt on the screen. Okay. I'm going to give you 90 seconds to read it. Okay. So I have my timer here. And the moment I go get set go, you will start reading what's on the screen. Okay. Ready, set, go. This is the text on your screen, right? Your time starts now. You have 90 seconds to read this paragraph, read this short excerpt. I'm going to repeat my instruction again for anybody who did not get it. You have 90 seconds to read what is written on the screen. Okay. Okay. 30 seconds more. Okay. Time's up. Okay. A lot of you have completed it. So very good. My follow-up questions to you are, now, without going back to the text because you can't, what was actually the text about? What was actually the text about beneath the surface? What do you think might happen next? And what's one line that stuck with you? You can answer any of the one of the three questions. A lot of the people are saying, okay, kindness. The story was about kindness. Great. Some Nasreen says that it's a story about a princess. Okay. It's a story about a princess. Most of you are saying it was about kindness. It was about kindness is the strongest magic, usually unusual fondness. Okay. Alina chose kindness over fear, showing that kindness is the strongest magic. Okay. Somebody says it was about an enchanted forest. Okay. Not being scared of the unknown. I love that. I love that. She loved exploring. Alina being shrewd. Okay. An adventurous princess. Okay, great. So I'm amazing answers that I'm hearing. Meenakshi says one cannot explore the world sitting in the castle. Okay, great, great. Now, the thing is that most of the answers that I'm hearing is more like a summary of the story. When I asked you what's the story about, most of you answered it's about Elena, it's about a princess, it's about kindness. But, and that is more or less like a summary of the story, right? The question was, what is the text about beneath the surface? We already know, as the title suggested, that it is a story about a princess Elena, right? But beneath that, what is the morale of the story? Or what is something extraordinary that you learned? Yeah. Nobody answered what might happen next, right? Nobody answered that. And I did not get any answers with respect to what's one line that really stuck with you. Maybe I missed it. Maybe I missed it. But most of the answers, I will say 80% of the answers were like a short summary of the story. That it's a story about kindness and it's a story about an adventurous princess called Elena. Okay. And right answers, by the way, I'm not saying that it's wrong. But here comes the trick, right? This is the gap that is between reading the words and holding on to meaning. There is a difference between summarizing a story, summarizing a text, any piece of text, and understanding its meaning beyond multiple layers. And that is what our students face every day. Now, there are 4 strategies to cope up with this gap, right? Now, just as we saw when I asked you about what the story was about, 80% of the answers were about a very surface level answers that, okay, it was a very summarized answer. Okay, it's about this one particular thing. It was about kindness, and that is it. Nobody thought beyond that. It might be about something else also. So one of the answers read that it was a story about an enchanted forest. That was a great answer. I mean, that was I think beyond what the story was actually telling us, right? And that is what we want our students to do. When we talk about decoding the words, we mean about, okay, understanding its meaning and presenting a summary, right? Are our students able to build critical thinking, analytical thinking? Are our students able to reflect on the story? Is the bigger question. And that is when comprehension comes into play, right? Comprehension does not necessarily mean that it happens after you have read the text. Comprehension happens while reading the text. When you pause, when you start to think about what we are reading, and that is when comprehension occurs, right? And that is the gap that our students are facing, right? And here I'm going to present to you 4 strategies that you can do in your classroom to bridge that gap, right? From a surface level summarizing to a more in-depth level of finding meaning in that story and presenting their own thoughts, right? Okay, so here I'm going to move forward with the reading strategies. Presenting to you the first strategy, that is prediction. Okay, here prediction means turn every pause in the text into a moment of thinking ahead, right? And what you see in the yellow box over here are the prompts, are the questions that you as teachers should pose the students with, right? So as teachers, when I'm using the strategy of prediction, what I'm trying to do is I'm asking the students to predict what is going to happen in the story at every natural break. And what are these natural breaks? It can be like a paragraph change, it can be the end of a chapter, it can be the end of it can be at a climax, it can be at any natural pause that you can decide that, right? And by questioning the students these questions, what do you think happens next? And what in the text made you think that? If you think that Elena will, let's say, is an adventurous princess and she will slay the dragon, let's say, what makes you think that? Give me evidence in the story that makes you think that Elena is an adventurous princess, right? So here we are not only asking the students to rely on what is given in the story, we are asking the students to think themselves and give evidences in the story, right? How can you try it is the next question. You can pause at a chapter break or a plot twist, just when the story is about to change, you can stop there and you can start a discussion on what will happen next, what do you think? Make them curious about the story, right? And that is how you connect the meaning. When they connect it to themselves and their own thinking, that is when the stories actually stick. They're going to remember it for a long time. And Where is this strategy actually used around the globe? So this particular strategy is usually used in Japanese Kokugo classrooms of predictions, right? Komal, you can't hear me. Am I audible? Like, okay, thank you. Komal, try joining again. Maybe that will help. Okay. So now, how does this look as a classroom technique, right? Uh, yes, Rabia, you want to share something? You have raised your hand. Okay. Okay, so how can you use this technique in your classroom? Like this is, I've taken 3 paragraphs of the story, and I've pointed out some natural breakpoints where you can pause and reflect on the story, right? The first is the title. I think that's very obvious. We start just reading the chapter. Even I have done that as a teacher. I've just started off with the chapter. I've actually never pondered upon what the title is. What does the title suggest about the story? I've never really thought about it myself. I did not even ask my students. But this is an amazing point for the students to, like, a warm-up activity before starting the chapter. The title becomes your natural breakpoint. You can ask the student, okay, who do you think this story is about, right? Similarly, at the end of a paragraph, when the story has just started, or it's in the somewhere in the middle, you can ask them, okay, what do you think the next paragraph entails? What do you think this is about, right? Especially at the chapter end, what do you think happened? What do you think will happen next? Even if the story has ended, you can ask this question, right? uh, Fourthly, images. I think images play a huge role in stories, especially in primary and early elementary grades, when the your stories are pictorially heavy and graphically rich. There are a lot of clues that the pictures can give the students as to what will happen next, or there's another sensory element to pictures already. So just by looking at the picture, can we predict what's going to happen? Can we predict, is the story about this little animal, or the girl, or the forest, or the fireflies that you can see here? We don't know. We can just predict, right? So by this technique, we can help the students grasp a certain excerpt without really going into it. You don't have to predict correctly. No, the point is that the student should be able to use their own thinking and imagination and contribute something to the story, so that the meaning sticks to them, right? So next time when they read the next paragraph, or they start reading the chapter or the story, uh, they will find themselves, either their predictions are correct or their predictions are wrong, and a new information will be granted to them, and that sticks in the minds of students, right? uh, Similarly, these are the questions that you can ask them. What do you think happens next? What in the text made you think that? So just not prediction, but asking the students for evidences. Why do you think like this? Give me evidence from the story, right? At this point of time, I just want to pause for a moment to ask if you have any questions, or whether if you have tried this particular strategy in your classrooms or not. Feel free to write in the chat box or raise your hand if you have tried, or even if you have not tried. What do you think about this strategy? Okay, Sajla says yes, you have tried. Sumita also says yes, amazing. And did it work? Sometimes. Aksa says she tried and students were very excited. Okay, that's amazing. And what I personally like about this strategy is this is applicable across all grades. I mean, this is not one key stage specific. You can use this in the early elementary grade, you can use this in the primary and secondary grades also. So this is very key stage friendly. Okay, amazing. And just with a global note, I wanted to tell you that this particular strategy is also used, widely used in the US and Australian literacy instruction, and it is known as directed reading thinking activity, or the DRTA activity. So this is a very tested, tried and tested method of, reading comprehension. And as I said before, it is also used in the Japanese Kokugo classrooms, where the teachers pause narrative texts to ask, "What do you think will happen?" Right? So it always keep the students on toes. Now we come to the second strategy, which is called annotation. Right? Um, Annotation. What about annotation? It is a strategy where you make the pencil a thinking tool, not a highlighter. So usually when we ask the students to read, we only ask them to use their fingers to, scan the text. No, this time we are going to ask them to use a pen while they are reading, right? Why? Because in this strategy, we use a variety of symbols for different for a number of different things. Right here I have only added three, which is character, feeling, and setting. So what does this entail is that whenever a student reads a text, if they come across any character, or in our case it was Elena, uh, they draw a symbol of a character, and it does not have to be any, like, very artistic, but it like it can be stick figures also. Whenever they encounter a feeling, they can draw a heart to it. Whenever they encounter a setting like a place or any plot, they can draw a relatable symbol to it. And you as teachers, you can decide what the symbols are or what you want to draw symbols for, right? And how can you try it? You can teach one simple margin code and max 3 to 4 symbols. So what I will suggest is, like, whenever you are starting a text, stick to your solid 3 to 4 symbols. If you have 10 symbols at your hand, then it gets very confusing, and that, like, just robs the joy of it. So stick to minimum of 3 and a maximum of 4. 5 is also pushing it, I believe, but yes. And around the world, it is rooted in classical commentary traditions. So a lot of times, when we remember, when we used to make notes, we used to constantly write in the margins. This is exactly what we're asking the students to do as well, but in a more pictorial way. But I believe annotation works best, this type of annotation works best for early elementary and primary grades, when the students are just starting to read huge, like, chunky paragraphs, and identifying important elements becomes a task for them, right? It will work great for low rigor students in your middle grades also. Uh, but yes, I think it's more of a rigor thing. But ideally, if you're a primary grade teacher, this is your go-to strategy, right? And now we'll see how does it look like in a classroom uh, ready technique. So I've taken out and 2 paragraphs out of the story that we read. And every morning before the palace bells rang, now I see the word palace, which is a place, somewhere it's a place. So I will quickly annotate it with a setting symbol, right? I don't have to think about it. It's not time taking at all. So while the student is reading, they can do it simultaneously. Elena would sneak out into the royal gardens. Now I spotted the word Elena, which is a name, which means it's a character. So I will quickly draw a sketch, like a stick figure for a character. Into the royal garden. So again, a plot here. And while reading the whole text, I came across one feeling of curiosity. So here I drew a small heart to identify that, okay, this is where I identified a small heart. So like this, uh, it becomes very easy for the students to identify what are the different elements of the story, how many places or how many settings are there in a certain paragraph, how many characters are there in a certain paragraph, how many feeling or abstract, nouns are there in a paragraph. It really helps them to understand the text a lot better. than just scanning through it. Uh, has anybody used this technique in their classroom? Has it worked for you? Would anybody like to go off mute and share, please? Has anybody used this technique in their classrooms? No. Okay, a lot of the answers are saying no, so I'm very excited about this. Vanita says yes. Vanita, would you be willing to come on mute and share it? How was your experience using this strategy? Okay, it's all right. If she's not able to. Okay. Okay, let me just see if I can. Uh, I think somebody is trying to speak. Yes, Pallavi, are you trying to speak?
Yes, actually, like I used it in senior classes
Okay.
because many a times for students of 9 to 12, English just becomes a subject to uh, pass the exams, right? So, and they are not interested in many of the stories. But then I used it for the story, like for Nelson Mandela's story in class 10, and they were able to draw the symbols and all, and then they were able to associate many things, and they came up with many questions also. So
Wow.
after that, they started discussing about his life, about his struggle and all. So this has created interest. So now, like I keep on using this with the senior students because it at least makes them relate to the top story, and it makes them question about the things. And then another story in class 11th, like it the adventure story. So there also they drew a lot of things they drew. So they came up with ideas also related to the story. So it helps the students to come up with the creative part that they have.
Yeah, thank you, Pallavi, for sharing. I think that what a great example. I using this technique in grade 9 and 10, amazing, and especially for a chapter like Nelson Mandela, where a lot of it's a very heavy text, I would say, and
Yeah,
using this simple strategy and students finding it very helpful. This is amazing. Thank you for sharing, Pallavi.
yeah, well,
I see Vanita was raising her hand. Vanita, would you like to share? And then we'll move on with the next strategy.
Yeah, sure. Hello, good evening, everyone.
Hi.
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, I used in my teaching most of the time. I taught in a primary section for 7 years. So I was using all these techniques. So really, it is amazing to see again. It worked very well when I was showing differentiation in teaching or giving activities. So a lot
Mm.
of students they were unable to write and express when I have given activities based on these special annotations using. It was like very low achievers also feeling like confident and achieving almost a learning goal. So it was a
Wow.
really amazing experience. Still,
Wow.
I'm continuing with all these strategies.
Oh, wow, Vanita. Thank you for sharing this. It really, it's so delightful to hear that, even so it always tells us that it's it's not a it's not a skill issue. The gap is somewhere else. The students are always able to do what is asked of them. We just need to change the way we ask the students to do it. Amazing. Thank you for sharing, Vanita. We'll move forward, keeping in mind the time. Okay, so a global note on annotation is it's also called close reading. And it is a common core US Cambridge International's approach to guided reading. Okay, so this is used as close reading in Cambridge, instructions. And it is also a Talmudic and classical commentary traditions. Reading was never meant to be silent or passive. So this this assumption that people have that, okay, reading only means you sitting with a book, and it is more like a passive task. That is not true, because while we are reading, our minds need to constantly, scan and grasp and think and reflect, and for that you need a pen or a pencil as a highlighter and as a tool. And just not this is not used not only for writing, but actually it can be used for reading as well. Thank you everybody for sharing, and we'll move on to the third strategy, which is visualization. uh, I'm not sure how many of us have used visualization before. Please write in the chat box if you have. What exactly is visualization? Is you turn words into images to make meaning stick, right? What is a prompt that you can give the students as teachers? Sketch the scene 60 seconds, stick figures aloud only, right? So let's say you read a paragraph, and then for meaning, how do you know that your students have understood the story? Ask them to draw it, and they don't need to have any artistic skills. Basically what all they need to do is put it into a graphical structure. That is what is needed, and it always has to be timed. It has to be quickly timed. You can't give them like one period or like 10 minutes or 5 minutes. No, the whole point is, in those 60 seconds, are the students able to put their words, put what they've read into images or into a graphical form? Because then that transition from words to images, it really checks on their comprehension, on their level of comprehension. It really checks if what they have read, have they actually comprehended it, or have they just read it on a face value, right? Only when they're able to transition from word to images, we can know that the comprehension has actually stuck with them, and they have made some sense and meaning of the text that they have just read. Okay, how can you try it? Is the next time you ask for a book report, let's say next time you ask for a question answer, uh, informally, what you can ask instead is a 4-panel comic strip. Will they be able to tell the story not in words but in images? Will they be able to do it? If they are, then they have understood what was needed of them. uh, and where is it practiced? It's a standard practice in Reggio Emilia classrooms. Now, Reggio Emilia is a learning environment. It's an educational philosophy in Italy, and basically the concept is that the classroom is a third teacher. Your environment is a third teacher. So I will just show you how does it look like in practice. So here, if you can see, sketch the scene 60 seconds, stick figures aloud. No artistic skill is required. Or you can also do a sensory mapping. List what a character would see, hear, smell in a given scene. So here I have given like a small paragraph, right? It's a very like 3-line paragraph. And here you can see what the representation that the student has made. Here the paragraph talks about how Elena, she snuck out into the royal gardens with the boots and ribbon in her hair. She talked to butterflies like they were her friends and believed the flowers whispered secrets when the wind passed through them. What can you see in the image here? You can see that there are flowers. You can see that there are butterflies. You can see there are sparkles. You can see like a crown. Now, please make note, there is no crown mentioned here. There is no crown mentioned here. There is no mention of like if she's a princess or she's anything, right? But we see that the student has made a crown over on the top of the head of the little girl. This means that the word palace must have stuck to her mind, right? Or maybe the title stuck to her mind, right? This is what makes me understand, okay, that the student has not only understood flowers and butterflies, but what she has also they have also understood is that, okay, this little girl might be a princess or a queen. right? So this is one example. The other example in the image that you can see here is sensory mapping. If I can zoom in, I'll try to zoom in. Okay, I can't zoom in. But if you can zoom in, please zoom in the second photo. It's a sensory mapping where the student has described a scene, Emilia in the magical forest, and they have put three tabs of what they can see, what they can hear, and what they can smell. Right now, it's easy for anybody to give a summary of what they have just read, but can you actually stop that and think beyond, you know, to what uh, they can comprehend that is not very obvious in the text. So if they are in an enchanted forest, of course they can see tall trees, sparkling fireflies, they can hear butterflies fluttering, water falling in the stream, so on and so forth. This means that the student is thinking beyond uh, just what is written, and they are actually putting their creativity to use. Right, this is one part. Another thing what I wanted to show you was a comic strip. Like, the previous slide was more about paragraphs, this slide is more about the whole story. How this Here we have the story of Princess Elena, and how they have translated words into both words and comic strips. uh, you can also say that the student has tried to make the portray the story through their eyes. And this is the true meaning of comprehension, when they can tell the stories in their own words, in their own manner. Right? I will just pause here for a second to ask if we have any questions, or if anybody has tried this strategy in their own classrooms, and has it helped them. Okay, Minakshi says yes. Minakshi, would you like to answer if how this strategy has helped you in your classroom?
Actually, the students who were more creative, and they could actually, draw some pictures, and using their own imaginations they could make the royal scene better, or maybe some sketches better.
Hmm.
But sometimes, students who were not having good creative or drawing skills, they also came up with something.
Wow.
uh, so, we cannot say that they were thinking all right, but probably they were not having these creative skills to prove it what
Hmm.
they were thinking.
Right.
So, to some extent, it helped
Hmm.
those who wanted to get help.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, that's a
Yes.
very interesting take on it. Thank you, Meenakshi, for sharing. I'm going to take Satpreet's answer, and then we are going to move forward. Yes, Satpreet.
Yeah, hello, good evening, ma'am.
Good evening.
I usually use this thing in smaller classes as if I just ask the students to make the comic strips
Hmm.
to express the answer or any story. So if one or two children are able to make that comic strip, with the help of that comic strip, other students are also able to understand what exactly given in that story,
Yeah.
and they also try by their own.
Oh, wow.
And not
That's
only in smaller classes, as I'm working as coordinator, so I'm taking care of all the classes. And I used to teach higher classes. Even in grade 11, there was a chapter, The Portrait of a Lady. I asked the students to make a comic strip of that chapter, and literally they made a comic strip very nicely and expressed all the things which is given in the chapter.
yeah. That's amazing, Satpreet. Thank you so much for sharing, Meenakshi, you too. And I do understand that this might put a little bit of pressure on the students who are a bit reluctant to, be creative or draw things. But I think that's the challenge of putting a timer to it. That you don't have to. This activity is not for you to prove your skills or how good you are at drawing, but just like a graphical representation. And secondly, that is why I like sensory mapping a lot, because here you don't have to actually draw a lot of things, but if you can list down things that you can, see, hear, smell, or, some adjectives for Princess Elena, if you can just list down some important elements of the story, that helps, right? Okay, we are going to move forward because we are really running out of time, and we come to the fourth and final strategy, which is discussion. And what kind of a discussion this strategy is meaning is made between readers, not just within one. So when we are reading a story, I think that I'm able to understand this, but there might be a lot of other viewpoints that I might be missing out. There might be other elements of the story that I might be missing out, and that is when peer learning helps a lot. Just as Satpreet said that, other students were able to understand the story because of some other students' comic strip. This is more or less like the same strategy. One question that you can pose to the students is, what confused you? What would you have done differently? And this strategy is done in peer learning, right? How can you try it? You can run a fishbowl. Now, I'm not sure if many of you have tried the fishbowl activity, but I'm going to introduce to you in a little bit. It's an activity where, the inner circle talks and the outer circle listens. So you distribute your classroom into two parts, an inner circle and an outer circle, right? I'm just going to show it to you. This is how it looks like. Small group discuss with minimal teacher intervention. So once the students have read a chapter or a story or a book, you line up your students in a circle who are going to discuss the story. You can give a prompt to them. Like, for example, you as a teacher, you can give one prompt like, okay, how do you think was Princess Elena? Okay, why was she adventurous? Why do you think she was adventurous? This can be your prompt, and then the students start discussing. While the outer circle are just observers, they only see, hear, and they can only ask questions later. But the inner circle will always engage in conversation. And then after some time, you switch between the two, right? And how does this work? It's more like a Socratic seminar or a book circle, and you ask open-ended questions like, what confused you? Basically, you ask questions that foster discussion, that foster different opinions than what one student might have. So you try to challenge what students are thinking about that story, right? Here is a short video that I want you to see. I'm going to play it for you.
In Fishbowl, an outer circle of students sits around a smaller inner circle of students. The inner circle participates in a high-level discussion while the outer circle listens. Here's how it works. First, create a prompt that ties to course content for students in the inner circle to discuss. Then create a handout for students in the outer circle, asking them to track 1. The order of participants, 2. The type of participation, such as new information or elaboration, and 3. The duration of each student's participation. Assign or ask for volunteers to form a circle and have the remaining students circle around them. Know that because you are putting inner circle students on the spot, it is important to have established trust so they will be comfortable sharing their thoughts. When everyone is seated, give the following guidelines. Only inner circle students will speak. Outer circle students will observe and take notes on both content and group process. Observers will address any issues that arise in the follow-up discussion. Explain the prompt to the inner circle and let the discussion begin. Participate in the discussion only to stimulate conversation or steer the discussion back to the prompt. After the first fishbowl discussion, facilitate a whole class discussion, requesting that students address content issues and also comment on group processes. Once complete, have students switch circles and begin a new discussion. An alternative approach to this technique is to have students form multiple small fish bowls. This can help alleviate any anxiety of students in the inner circles. Fish bowls create productive discussions because they involve every student and provide them with a framework to follow. They also help students learn what a constructive conversation is by critiquing group processes. Here at the K. Patricia Cross Academy, we
Okay, so this was a very quick introduction to fishbowl activity. Basically, this activity works wonders with middle grades, secondary grades, and I think grade 2 to 3 it can work amazing for them as well. As long as we are encouraging students for open discussions, and we are as teachers we are steering the discussions towards what on the topics that we want the students to think on, right? It is a great activity to do before you start any question answer in the notebooks, because I believe once they are fueling with a lot of ideas in their minds and a lot of different ideas hitting their heads, a lot of different opinions in their heads, it will be much easier for them to do the question answers by themselves. I think that's one suggestion. So this was the fishbowl activity. And where is this globally located is that it was used as an ancient Greek dialectic. So low hierarchy, student-led discussion is a national pedagogical norm in Finnish classrooms today. This is like really, really happening there. And reading circles in India. So India's NCRT recommended reading circles for upper primary grades. As I said, this will work great for like third, fourth, and upper grades. Because here we are actually asking the students to discuss on different opinions about a particular topic, and we are posing them with different opinions that challenges how they think about a certain topic or a certain story or a certain character, things like that. So has any of you tried this strategy, or did it work for you? Did it not work for you? Anybody tried this strategy? Shirley says for primary, is it practical? I'm afraid. Shirley, which grade are you talking about exactly? If it's grade 1 and 2, not so much. I think other strategies might work well initially, specifically at this point of the academic like term. Maybe you can try it towards the final exams, like towards the end of the academic year. You can give it a try, because the whole purpose of this activity is to start students to think and be vocal about what they are thinking about a certain story or a character. And once they start speaking, they will start writing as well. Grades 3 and 4 too, it will work. Yes, it will work. Surely, I think you should try it. But I will say that keep this strategy towards the later half of the academic year. Here, right now, you can focus on the initial activities, strategies. Okay, moving forward. Now, I have a quick question for you. If this is your excerpt that you have been given, what reading strategy will you use for this excerpt and how? I've presented to you 4 strategies. They were annotation, visualization. What were the other 2? What were the other 2 activities that we discussed?
Visualization
Visualization. Thank you, Preeti.
and discussion.
And discussion. Excellent. Excellent. And what will you use for this particular strategy? There is no right or wrong answer here. All the strategies will work. But I just want to know which strategy will you try in your classroom next. Masrat says fishbowl. Fatima says prediction. Great. I need more answers. Anushri says fishbowl. Okay, great. I need more answers. Why is nobody talking about visualization? I think that was a great activity. I would love to do it. Discussion. Sunita says visualization and prediction. Amazing, Sunita. And that is what I wanted to actually get into. Just because these are 4 different strategies does not mean that you can only use one at a time. I think as Meenakshi ma'am said, that, there were some students who were reluctant to do the visualization activity. For such students, can you do another strategy, right? You can do annotation and prediction, right? For students who are not who are very reluctant to speak, or they are very shy, maybe discussion or a fishbowl activity might not work best, even though I will encourage you to use it, but initially it might not work. Will something like visualization work for them? So I can use 2 strategies at a time, right? Pallavi is saying visualization and prediction. Okay, great. Okay, since we're running out of time, I just wanted to ask you what this one question. What's one thing that could go wrong, and how will you handle it? What do you think can go wrong while using these strategies? Are you like scared of something that it might not happen, or things might not turn out as you wished for them to turn out? Is there any fear lurking inside your hearts that these strategies might not work? We may, okay, I got an answer. Sri Vidya says we may lose time on finishing the portion. That's a good one. That's a good one. I think Sri Vidya, I think with practice, a lot of things become easier. I do understand that's like a constant constraint on our minds as teachers to finish portions on time. But I think once we start inculcating the habit, even the students will get into the habit of, doing it. We can try to do it in a 0 period, or if you have a substitute period, or you can just try the initial activities of annotation and prediction. That does not take much an extra time. I do understand fishbowl might take some time. Ash says child's understanding. Ash, can you elaborate on this? Time management, time constraint is the main challenge that I'm seeing, but I'm challenging you guys. Please go and try it. Because uh, I do understand initially it might be challenging, but once your students are able to comprehend it so well, maybe by the 3rd or the 4th time, it'll take way less time for you to do it. And they will enjoy reading, and that is the goal, right? That is the goal that we are looking for. Okay, so here I have a quick reference sheet for you. Can I request you all, if this was helpful to you, you can take a screenshot of this. This is, I've done like, I've recapped everything here in this sheet. Feel free to take a screenshot of this. I'm going to pause for 1 minute. Feel free to take a screenshot. It will be really helpful for you to like take a quick reference check the next time you're planning your lesson plan for a short chapter or any chapter, and you can try and use these activities. I'm going to let it on 30 seconds more, giving you more time to take a screenshot. Okay, last 10 seconds. Okay, okay, great. And final reflection is that once you start, getting these activities done, you will notice that these strategies will not require any extra resources on your part. You don't have to, print sheets, give them out, create new worksheets, nothing of that sort. You can use these very, very easily, and with time it'll take you half the time to complete these activities. And before I give you the QR code, what I wanted to also share with you is a very exciting news, is that we have recently launched our new Gurukul official WhatsApp channel. where you will receive all the updates that is relevant, any webinar update, any resources that we have, any product updates, important announcements. So please, if you want to follow our channel, and please follow our channel, because you will, like, it will be really helpful to you. Please, you can take a screenshot of this, or you can just go on this, click on this link here, go on this link to check the channel and join our next Gurukul WhatsApp channel. It will be really helpful. Okay, thank you so much, everybody, for joining. I hope this was helpful, and please send me your feedback on what you would like me to do the next